attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar, An International Perspective, Establishing a New Paradigm in Medicine. My name is Tamara Moore with the Reese Group, a communications firm in DC. I will serve as today's moderator. Before we get started, I'd like to go over a few items so you know how to participate in today's event. We've taken a screenshot of an example of the attendee interface. You will have an opportunity to ask questions during today's discussion. To ask a question, submit your text question through the Q&A section of the attendee control panel on your screen. We'll collect all questions and address them during the Q&A session at the end of the presentation. We will be showing two videos during the presentation. Please note that video audio will play only through your computer speakers. If you're listening to today's webinar via phone, please ensure that your computer speakers are turned up so that you'll be able to hear the videos during that portion of the presentation. If you have any issues with your webinar technology, you may type your question through the Q&A section and someone will respond to you as soon as possible. You may also contact GoToWebinar technical support by dialing 877-582-7011. Today's presentation is being recorded and will be posted to the Leadership Program website in the coming days. I'd now like to turn the call over to Damien Galina, Program Manager of the Leadership Program in Integrative Healthcare at Duke University. Damien?
Thanks, Tamara, and thank you all for joining us today. We have a great program for you, but before we get started, I just wanted to mention that the Leadership Program in Integrative Healthcare is currently accepting applications for our 5th cohort, which begins in February of 2019. It's exciting to see the innovative and diverse work our alumni are doing to advance the field of integrative health and medicine. The program offers extensive personalized leadership training, guided curriculum by integrative healthcare experts, and mentorship from faculty from the Duke Fuqua School of Business on project planning. Our one-year program is really designed to make the most out of our participants' time with 3 in-person immersions throughout the year, complemented with one-on-one mentoring calls and a robust online curriculum. So if you or anyone you know might be a good fit for the program, I would encourage you to go to our website at www.integrativehealthleaders.org, or you can contact me at damien.galina@duke.edu. Applications for our next cohort will be accepted until September 30th. For today's presentation, I'm joined by a talented graduate of the program, Efrat Suraqui. Efrat, who's a graduate of our 3rd cohort, is a physical medicine rehabilitation resident physician at Hadassah Medical Center in Israel, and we're lucky to have her joining us from Jerusalem this morning. Today, Efrat will share her international experience of overcoming the challenges of establishing a new model of care within a large health system in Israel. Through this perspective, Efrat will discuss what others can learn as they look to establish a new paradigm of care. So with that, I'd like to turn the call over to Efrat. Efrat?
Yes. Hi. Hi, everybody. I'm very happy to connect with you all and share with you my journey. It's very exciting to be here. I will speak a little bit about my connection to the program, the leadership program, but this will be a little bit after. So we are going to speak today about the Blue Hub. This is our project in Hadassah Medical Center in the Rehabilitation Department, and this is our subject for today. So just an overview about what we are going to discuss. First, we'll speak a little bit about the needs. What is the need that actually made this project coming through, and the connection between the past, the present, and the future? What is the opportunity? Why to do this now? Why this is the right timing? What is the integrative model that we are establishing in rehabilitation? Why in rehabilitation? What are the challenges from a generic global point of view and from my personal point of view? What did we accomplish until now? And I will end with my personal perspective, not as a physician, but as a person. So let's start. I chose to start actually a little bit about myself, because I think all of what I'm doing is actually rooted in this issue, and I want to start speaking about my roots. I grew up actually in a blue zone home I think most of us are familiar with the concept of the blue zone, and we'll discuss about it a little bit after. I'm the fourth child. My parents are extremely healthy. I'm very happy about it. My father is 87. My mother is 82. And they've been through a lot in their life. My father actually grew up in Jerusalem in a very, very poor conditions. And my mother came from Yemen when she was 12. She was an immigrant, and she came actually with nothing. She came from a very rich family. But what has really astonished me all my life is that even though I lost a brother and a sister, and they lost two children, they are so rooted in their well-being. And my mother is doing gymnastics, my father is still working, and I was always curious about the connection between my parents' well-being and the challenges they overcome through life. And this is, for me, the basis for the connection of disease and growth and a sense of purpose. So let's continue from this. What is actually the need? Why all of us are actually here in this program, in this ideas of looking for something else in healthcare? So this is an extreme number. And this extreme number is actually 86% of the healthcare budget in the USA. I'm sure most of us know this, goes to treatment of chronic diseases. And this number is actually growing all the time, a bit every year. But we know the results are not good enough. This is why we are here. So it's actually not a lack of money. So what is that? What is the innovation that we need to do? Because the gap, and we see the gap, we feel the gap as healthcare professionals, that a gap is actually a good channel for innovation. And here the interesting gap between the enormous investment and not a lack of satisfying results, especially in regards to well-being, this is actually our desert. I feel it every day. But a true entrepreneur is looking at desert as a place of potential. And this is what I want to suggest today. So actually a gap between ideality and reality is a major source of stress for individuals and society. And this is the core issue in healthcare. And from my understanding, there is an important turning point in the 19th century with the impact of the Industrial Revolution that was actually built on the logic of automation and efficiency. This picture is a good resemblance, I think, for that. This is a major core impact on how we perceive medicine, I think, and healthcare today. So Dan Ariely, professor of psychology and behavioral economics at Duke, in his one of his latest books that called The Payoff, he quotes Adam Smith, the famous economist, and he says like that: one man draws out the wire, another straightens it, a third cuts forth, points it, a fifth grinds it at the top for receiving a head. From the worker's point of view, they were nothing more than a cogs in a wheel. This is a very interesting perspective from an industrial point of view, but actually we can see it also in medicine. And I think this has created the foundation for a schematic evaluation of humanity on all aspects, including in healthcare, and I think even mainly in healthcare, and it proved to be an important revolution in creating, in treating acute conditions. But there is a big but. And I circled one of the, I don't know if it's a woman or a man that is of the issues that we need to give answer to. We can see even, for example, that even technological solutions that connected to lifestyle, even them, they are giving numerical results. And it created much more than personal impact. It created a treatment culture that we are all in it, that was more and more focused on numbers, with a biomechanical model, and actually the person was a bit lost. Even if, you know, when you look at the picture on the right side on a factory in China, you don't see the personality. You don't see what the person feels. What does he want to do? What is his purpose? And when we'll see pictures actually from the Blue Zone research, we'll see something really different from that. So we see it also in quality indices that actually became the gold standard for evaluation for health, but we didn't find the way to translate this to behavior and motivation. With time, we discovered that algorithms, like we see on the left side, they are proved to be very effective actually in emergency decision making, where we need to make fast decisions and we need to overcome our irrationalities. But on the other hand, data is proved not to create impact for long-term health creation. So in a way, we need to find a different solution that it's much more deep than just technical solution. This is why we create a different and a new paradigm. So actually, we are in a way in a junction of integration of what? Because there is the intelligence of the medications that is helpful in their own way, but we have the intelligence of the holistic care. So we have value versus efficiency. We have individual perspective versus statistics. We have listening versus measuring, and we have caring versus resuscitation. And I think the picture on the right side, which is taken by a friend of mine, which is a Chinese medicine therapist, it captures the moment of listening, of understanding something in a very deep level. So we know now that it's not about the data. It's about the integration and how can we make it efficient enough and practical enough. So I chose to quote here Alex Butler. He's one of the leading gurus in the way of digital health. And even him, that he's connected to pharma for a long time now. And even him says something like that. Too often in healthcare, the focus is on utilizing jargon such as activation, engagement, behavioral change, or just selling an app or education program. This can hide organizationally defined objectives, narrowly targeted at adherence and risk management without truly understanding the patient need. In this last sentence, this is the core element of the hub that we are creating. What are the patient needs? Do we understand that? Do we know how to approach it? And do we know how to translate it to actually give a good solution? So I chose to bring here a few sentences that patients told me during my residency, and actually I hear it really every day. You are the first doctor speaking with me about weight loss and complementary medicine. I don't have what to fight for. I know it happened to me for a reason. Who can I speak to? I feel so lonely. The stroke helped me realize that I want to be healthy. I want to grow old with my kids. I need guidance. So we see the need is actually speaking for itself. The field is speaking. People are looking. I think it's our responsibility to create a system that will know to give the right answers, or the holistic or the diverse answers for this time of conditions, because health is well-being, is health. It's connected. We cannot divide it anymore. So now let's speak a little bit about the opportunity. Why now? I think first, the fact that we have this community here in the program or here even in the webinar, it means that actually times are changing. I don't remember my parents speaking about medicine and health the way we speak. This is a different generation. It's a different time. We can see it even with the millions that are seeking for different solutions, millions that are using alternative medicine and other perspectives. But even more than that, I think we are in time of transition from survival after wars that the world been through, and now actually we are focused on impact. And I think impact is the 21st century revolution. This is the leading vector in more and more fields, and it's reflected in the renaissance of the field that I mentioned here. Because we are not rational creatures. We don't rationalize our choices. And we know it from Kahneman research, the Nobel Prize winner, and much more research done about that. And there is, for impact, we cannot create on a rational linear models. So we need diversity of tools that gathered together to bring a deep change. And I chose to put the marks here of the patient and the physician because I think in a way I was educated to give linear and rational answers. But it pushed the patients from us. And I think it's time that we are all be connected together, but from a different level. And bringing this diversity and wanting to impact the patient's life and to learn from him, teach him, to be a reciprocal relationship, I think this is a different way now. I think it's time for healthcare systems to join this revolution by expanding the tools that I mentioned above that are aiming in health creation. So this is actually what led us to create the hub. And I will speak about it a little bit after, about why I feel that rehabilitation, and I see that rehabilitation is actually the ideal place for this hub. But from a personal point of view, I'm situated in a department that have such an open doors that I didn't find in all my years of study, and I really looked for it. I think this is what enabled all of this dream or vision to start realizing itself. So what is actually the hub vision? What is our vision? We want to establish a health creation treatment model within hospitals as a disruptive standard of care toward the future of medicine. I think what we are aiming is actually to bring something not to replace, but something to accompany what we have now. And having that inside the hospital, it brings such a change because this is an intersection that every patient almost comes through a hospital. And in a time of break, in a time of illness that people are inside the hospital, especially if we see it in rehabilitation, it's a good time, it's a breaking time, but it's actually an optimal time to do a transition, to do a transformation, and we'll speak a little bit about that after. What is the mission in that? We want to bring together expertise from various fields and leverage their connection to provide a wide spectrum of health empowering services aiming to foster the patient's wellness. What exactly does it mean? It means that we are focusing on a different issue. And I want you to look I want to show you an example. 2 days ago, I was in a shift and I met a patient that he was treated. He came to rehabilitation because of critical illness, myopathy. Myopathy was very weak. It was after a severe pneumonia. He has a severe COPD, he has a severe asthma condition. He has obesity more than 100 kilos. He's very stressful at work. And his wife asked to call the doctor because his saturation was very low. He couldn't breathe, and they were very stressed in the room. And I went through his file, and we started speaking. And she actually focused on his disease. She told me, you know what, he's an asthma patient, and this medication we take, and we have this doctor following us, and this is the numbers. All of the speaking, all of the discussion, more than half an hour, was focused on his disease. So we started to speak from a different point of view, and we started speaking about his health. Is he satisfied in his life? How does he live at his work? What did he try more to treat his asthma? Did he try breathing techniques? Did he try losing weight? Did he stop smoking? And he was so shocked with my question that it was amazing. He said, you know what, nobody really spoke with me through this way. And this is for me to go from chronic illness to chronic wellness. And this is putting the health as a treatment, as looking at his pillars of health that we'll say something about that after, and try to use the rehabilitation, that process, that any way that we are doing, as a transition point that is focusing on his wellness. I have to say that this is not my theory. It's backed up with so much research from so many models. If it's post-traumatic growth or salutogenesis model, positive psychology, Jewish psychology, which is a growing place of knowledge and very interesting knowledge, motivation research, the flow theory of Mihaly, the Hungarian-American psychologist, the blue zone theory, the ancient wisdom, Ayurveda, Chinese medicine. There is so much knowledge around that. But the issue is that it's a patchy knowledge. In a way, we didn't find yet how to create all the things combined together and translated to a very practical algorithm, like we do with medication, but we can do it also with these perspectives. So just to say a few words, why rehabilitation? Rehabilitation is a very interesting field in medicine, I think, because in a way it's a bit of a bubble. And most of the physicians that I met are not really familiar with what rehabilitation is. And why do I think it's an ideal place to promote well-being and to promote health? First, we have long-term relationships with patients. I think like family doctors, but maybe a bit more. The hospitalization period, for example, after stroke is an average of 2-3 months. After that, we see the patient in rehabilitation daycare for 5-6 months. Then after, we see him in the clinics every 6 months. It depends on his condition. And we are very familiar with his social condition, with his economical conditions, with his occupation. So we are really into his holistic point of view of his life. And this is why it's a pluridisciplinary attitude by definition. We are working with psychologists, with social workers, with occupational therapists, with physiotherapists, and all of the team is working together. It's very hard to create a model that is built on diversity, like the hub that we want to create in a place that is not used to working like this. So actually, the core is already interdisciplinary. We just want to add more models and a wider perspective to what is already there. As I said before, we are a very patient-centered approach. We cannot use rehab without understanding what is the function level of the patient from a very physical point of view, but also from emotional, mental, cognitive point of view. Our department is a specifically general rehabilitation. It means that we are treating neurological patients, orthopedic patients, spinal cord patients, all of them in the same place. So we have a diversity of conditions. And we have, specifically, we are in the leading position. We are a sole adult rehabilitation department in the Greater Jerusalem area. From the patient point of view, we are in a way a center of chronic conditions because we see oncological patients, multiple sclerosis patients. We see the end result in a way of all the chronic conditions. And most of them, I have to say, more than 80% are completely not familiar with healthy lifestyle because they don't know, because they're not aware, because they didn't know how to use it. It was never suggested, many reasons. But the gap between their situation and healthy lifestyle is very wide. It's important to do that because we are looking forward for the patient to take responsibility on his condition. And he's a bit dependent on us, and this is something that we want to break. Because he has a lag time between hospitalization and daycare, and after he's released from the daycare, where does he go? How can he continue to treat himself? And this is a potential for a new audience that we can actually impact them. What are the hub values? We chose 5 hub values that actually translated from the idea of the blue zone, and this is a bit further away. The first value is optimism. Optimism, it means that when someone is facing a challenge, we see it as a place of transformation. We are not speaking about turning back to what I was, because none of us can do that. We are speaking about using what I've been through to create a new way in my life, new mindfulness in my life. The second value is impact. And this is 2 sides of impact. We are looking really to make a deep impact on the patient's life. But more than that, we are pushing the patients in this concept of the hub, impact others, to be a model for others of how to recover, on how to take responsibility, and how to be a leader in his place. If I can give you an example on a patient that is 25 years old, he's been through a car accident, and he suffers from a spinal cord injury that actually is going to change his entire life. What about if we give him the option to be a leader and help others going through the same conditions, because he can understand them in a level that we can never do. And this is the idea of helping others is a known fact to bring a wellness and bring a sense of purpose to the patient's life. The third value is responsibility. We want to help the patient to take responsibility, and to push him even to take responsibility on his conditions, and we will see it after with the examples of the pilots that we're going to do. Fourth value is diversity. Bringing diversity inside the hospital is a big challenge, and we decided to make it a core value, because it's very hard, even impossible, to have a holistic model without diversity of tools, because the physiotherapist can do so far and the physician can do so far, and we need multiple tools to help the patient in a very deep way. The last value is flexibility, and in a way it's a bit like diversity, because healthcare system is a very traditional and very conservative in its perspective. It's very hard to implement new things. And we are looking to actually build a model, and we'll discuss about it a bit further about the tech solutions, for example. How can we make the things a bit more flexible? That, for example, if we want to have a tech solution inside of our department to create a channel, that it won't take 2 years, it will take a few months, not more than that. So the hub is focusing on the 5 pillars of health. That is it's something that we're all familiar with. The physical, the mental, the emotional, the social, and the spiritual. And we are choosing, we chose a few interventions connected to each pillar and slowly implementing them in our doing of the department. So we are speaking about nutrition, about sleep hygiene, about exercise and movement, in-touch therapies, cognitive rehabilitation, which is a big part of the process anyway in rehabilitation, emotional perspective, stress reduction programs, mindfulness, for example, for helping with chronic pain, community building. We'll speak a bit about it further from a social point of view. I have to say my favorite pillar is the spiritual, of the sense of meaning and occupational rehabilitation program. I see myself, I have to say, as a field agent. Before I started medicine, I have like 7 or 8 years experience with helping families in a very hard socioeconomical places. And what I discovered through these years, before I even thought that I will be a physician, is that that most of us, in a way, live a bit in a bubble. And what is happening in the field is a bit different. And there is a gap between the research discoveries and what patients are actually feeling. And in building this hub, what I did is I went to the field and I started mapping the needs. And I'm doing it for a few years now. And because of this perspective of bottom up, as we say, my inspiration is the amazing work of Dan Butler in the Blue Zone, because this is what he did. He went and studied and felt these people, understanding their way of living and writing about it and helping us understand from such a wide perspective how they chose to live their life and how come they are succeeding in having such wellness in such an old age. So with the Blue Zone in mind, our model of the Blue Hub have 4 divisions. We have the research, the learn, the develop, and the practice. We'll dig a bit on each one of them, but we'll say just a little bit. We decided to do it this way with these 4 divisions to answer to the challenges that I will speak a little bit after. But when we wanted to make it something very lean, this is the leanest that we found, because we discovered that we need to learn. First, we need to learn as therapists about healthcare, about what does it mean actually to promote health, what is health made of, and to learn and to teach the patients and to teach the community and the physicians that are in the largest circles, not only in rehabilitation. So we decided to do it through conferences once a year, and I will discuss about it, and through building and formulating a rehab academy inside the rehabilitation department, helping patients learning about healthy lifestyles, about their sense of purpose, about coping with stress, and having tools for that. Which is something that is known for years in rehabilitation, but it's more to help technological solutions answer creating healthy habits. So what we are doing is now we are working on a makerspace. This is the Rehab Lab that we'll say a few words about that. But we are always reminding ourselves that tech is only a tool to create health. This is not the thing itself. And I have to say that after I'm seeing so much solutions that are focusing on virtual reality, not thinking about what we can have in a few years and the impact that it can make for us as humanity, this is something that we are focusing in a very close eye. The third division is practice, with implementing integrative medicine models and sense of purpose mentoring. We'll say something about that here. And the fourth division is research. Research that we are initiating within the department and research with startup companies coming from the outside. So speaking a bit about these divisions and the pilots that we are working on now. So let's speak about the practice program. We decided to start with working with patients suffering from chronic pain. And I was asked to suggest a model treatment for this point of view. And I chose to look at it from three points of intervention. First one is optimizing. How can I optimize what we have today? And we chose to do it by training for our rehabilitation team. How can we create understanding about the compassion that we need to feel and to practice for patients that are suffering years of pain? And how can we experience on ourselves, understanding what does it mean Qigong? What does it mean Chinese medicine? There is a difference between bringing a Chinese medicine therapist inside the department and having a course or even a few lessons about understanding the philosophical point of view of Chinese medicine. It makes it a lot different. I want to share with you a story that a few of my friends told me. Before I started medicine, I learned Chinese medicine for 4 years. I had a clinic until the start of my residency. And I met with few of my friends working in hospitals, in rehab and in different departments. And they told me all the same. It took almost 1 year for them, 1 year, so it's a lot of time, understand how the department works. And understanding with them why it happened, they told me that no one really knew what to do with them. They were new in the area. No one understood what does it mean, actually, Chinese medicine. What is it good for? Who is supposed to call them? Who is referencing the patients to them? And I think what is most importantly is that the physician, the residents that we all know that are holding the work inside the department, they didn't even know they existed. And this is why we decided to make it different. So if we are if this program is going to be approved, part of it is that the staff will know a bit about what is coming into the department. The second thing is adding. So we said this before, is adding different models to treat pain. And this is from what is evidence known now. We chose acupuncture, osteopathy, and Qigong, and nutrition. The way to do that is like we did before. We are going to teach the patients understanding this and practicing it and trying this, but also the medical team will go through understanding what does it mean. And the third thing is cultivating. We are looking at pain from a growth point of view, not from a support point of view. And we want and we emphasize the idea, what we said before, of the patient taking responsibility, which means that we are building, it will be an app, it will first start with the low tech. We are working now on a program of practicing movement and nutrition and mindfulness in their homes. So they are not dependent on us, on the time that they are spending with us. And with practicing that more and more and more, it will become a habit for them. So even when the pain will push aside, things will start to change. And we have pilots organized also for the years after. The program of the sense of purpose, it's a 1-year intervention that we are looking to do. We'll say it a bit briefly. We want to assess the patient's function level, and then to create a mentoring intervention, hopefully with the inspiration of Michael Aquilino, which I appreciate and inspired very much with his mentoring. And the process will be very practical in that when the year is ending, the patient will be connected or to a work position or to a studying or to our course that he wants to do. When we spoke about learning, what we want to do we are planning to do with the Rehabilitation Academy. We have patients in the daycare and in the department that they have so much free time and with so much not to do, and they are very bored. And in these hours, they feel very depressed. So we decided to help and use this spare time and to have professions coming in and help us bringing in knowledge about connected to nature in a course of photographing, connected to art, to connect to music, to create practicing together and community mentoring, and creating lessons about healthy eating and about plant-based diets. We spoke about conferences. So what we want to do in what we did in October 2017, we did a conference speaking about motivation, design, and different point of views connected to health. Then after we had 3 days of a make-a-thon. A make-a-thon is an event that is gathered around to create tech solutions around some subject. And we decided that the subject will be motivation. We'll see a movie about that a bit after. Our next, hopefully, conference will be on tribalization, the connection between community and health, and how community is actually a very important prognostic issue that is connected to longevity and well-being. I want to show you something about the practical idea, practical concept. What we just saw is an amazing project that a friend of us did. He connected 44 writers and 33 animators, and he put them together to create a book in 8 hours. I see writing, bibliotherapy, as an amazing recovery and looking inside tool. We want to use that and bring this concept into our department and to create a book in 8 hours with the therapist and the patients. So this is a way for me to translate community to a very practical tool. We'll say it a bit shortly now because I see we are running out of time. The idea of the tech solutions inside of this program is we are working on creating a lab that inside this lab will meet once every, for 2019, this is the first pilot, we are creating a community of makers, developers, engineers, meeting together once every 2 weeks, focusing on a wish of a patient or challenge that an occupational therapist or physiotherapist suggested, working together to have solutions that are created in a few days, in a few weeks, and implementing them inside the patient's life. Just understanding what does it mean to bring, for example, startups in our doing. Amuse is a very interesting company. It's an Israeli startup that its vision was to transform the patient treatment process using technology and music inside the rehabilitation process. What is very interesting about them is that they are actually a platform. They're not coming with a closed end product. They are a platform that with them we can create different technological solutions that are connected to health and rehabilitation and even more. And we are opening doors to startups like this, to platforms like this, to work to create with our vision different things that I see as digital health, because they are really connected to health and not to something else. See, okay, I will go a bit further. The idea of evidence here besides doing the regular research, we want to be focused more on patients' reported outcome measures. In rehabilitation, this is something very important because the measures that they are reporting, this is actually the things that are impacts them the most. So this is the way we decided to collect evidence for now. And the idea of data here is very important. When someone is creating something from scratch, collecting the data and analyzing this from the beginning, even though we'll make mistakes, it's a very important thing to create the database that we can have it influencing others after. As we said before, the idea of the practice and the development and the research, they are all connecting together. So this is actually a flow that everything is in a pivot. So we want to improve the therapy, we want to practice it, we want to research it, and then to develop it all over again. We are learning all the time. This is flexibility, by the way. What is the wellness fractal that we decided to use? The wellness fractal, it means that all of the models that we are, all the collaboration, they are all focused on the 5 pillars of health. It means from the nursing to the speech therapist, to the psychology, to the motivational research, to the music, to the community, everything together, focusing on everything. In this aspect, we can help the patient understand so much more in such a short time. There is a known concept of 10,000 hours. If we want to make ourselves good at something, the research shows that we need 10,000 hours to practice it, to be a specialist. So instead of doing 10,000 hours, we can have this 10,000 hours for the patient if we can surround him with this kind of mindset from everybody that can meet around him during the recovery process. To have this diversity, we need to have a board of advisors. We have specialists. We are now creating this board of advisors to have specialists that are, they have a lot of experience in this kind of field that we want to create. And they are, in a way, our umbrella. They are the guiding force helping us to create the top-down practicing and to connect the bottom-up. The flow, as we mentioned before, is to learn all the time. This is to be a flexible ecology in a way, that we are organizing the events, we are tracking the candidates, we are giving them a training process to be all of us aligned together in the same vision. We are helping them to be involved, and with the practicing and the development, we can validate what we are doing and to understand what is working more, what is working less. In a way, we see this flow as a practical place to build a community and to build a process, a new paradigm, so we can have a different algorithm now. This is just to show you what does it mean, a training process. We decided to have a process that all of us are starting together, our team, the developers of the lab, the therapists, and we have now a project of volunteers that we want to have them trained. We are all starting together, and then we are divided to channels according to what the patient is here for. But the idea of sitting together, a designer, a therapist, a physician, a community specialist, a motivational researcher, all of us sitting together in the same room, this is for me the true innovation. I'm going to move a bit about that to come through the challenges, so we'll have a bit time for questions. Speaking about challenges is a challenge by itself, but working inside a generic culture, very traditional system, I find that the most puzzling challenge is the idea of translation. Because we are so used to work with medications, in a way we don't need to translate. There is a very clear algorithm of working. And when we are speaking about healthy lifestyles or sense of purpose, what does it mean? How can we make it something very practical? Because if it's not practical, nobody is going to use it. Nor the therapist, nor the patients. It won't work. So how can it translate the things into action? Make it feasible. If we spoke about the book, if we spoke about volunteers, if we spoke about tech solutions, if we're speaking about training mindfulness, having an app working at home in physiotherapy, in breathing techniques, this is a part of my understanding of translating the idea of blue zone into a real practice. How can we create the time and the team? As we know, the time in a hospital is very short, and it's very hard to find time for the team, for myself. And how can we make it a natural part? How can we, for example, have a new language inside the rehabilitation instead of saying you won't be able to go back to what you were, to speak in a different level, to say that we want to help you to use what you've been through to reinvent yourself. And after doing that, how can we cooperate with the patients? When we are all aligned, how can we transfer this mindset to the patients? It means, for example, that the department, we want to design it in this perspective. So they will have a curriculum on the afternoon on the wall of their Rehab Academy. So they will join us for the learning how to make a good food. The challenges I found in our department. It's not easy to extend the interdisciplinary work and to bring other factors and other players into the room. How do I build a budget? What does it mean? It's not easy to have a budget from inside the hospital for something that is actually was never built before. How can we map the network inside the hospital and the network in the community? There is a lot of startups and a lot of interesting projects and social entrepreneurs, especially now in Israel and especially in Jerusalem. How can I connect with them? How can I bring them inside the hospital, helping them not to be afraid from such a big system? From my personal perspective, how can I work in parallel with my residency? I have to say that I met a researcher that is working about the burnout into the healthcare system. And she told me that something that is very intuitive that she found in her research, that people that are coming with a deep sense of purpose to work inside the hospital, these are the people that are actually suffering the most from burnouts. And I think we are missing a point with young doctors like myself, not using them in a way and not helping them to be creative during the residency. Just ran in an article speaking about 50% dropouts rates in the residency in the USA. And I think for me, this is a big part of it. How can we bring out the leader within? How can I be updated with what's happening around me? Because this is not my everyday practice. I need always to be mindful, to be what is happening outside, to be mindful for myself. I have to say that I think this is the core challenge. When we are very well rooted in our mission, things will work because we will start to do. I chose the idea of do and listen because I think this is the circle. When we start doing, we're discovering so many things about ourselves, about others, about the system. But sitting aside doesn't create something new. And from this perspective, I found the leadership program at Duke to be very unique and very helpful in that. It took me time to understand that. But I thought about it today that I would do it with pleasure again. Yeah, you said something? Ah, sorry. So just to finish with a bit of what we did, we want to show you a movie, but we'll show only a few minutes of it, so we'll have time for questions. So we are back, and because we are almost out of time, maybe 1 or 2 minutes, if there is a question, we'll answer it happily.
Thanks, Efrat. One question that came in, you broke up a little bit when you were speaking to the Blue Hub, the second division of learning. I know you talked a little bit more about that later on in the webinar. Is there anything anything that you want to reiterate from that slide where you talk about the Blue Hub that we would benefit from?
Specifically about the learning division?
Yes.
Okay, so the idea of the learning, for now we are starting with 2 projects. The concept of the learning is that we discovered that if we want to implement something new, we need to study to understand what exactly does it mean. This is the idea of leading something new, is that you need to, for everybody to be aligned with this vision. Not everybody actually have to agree with that, but just to be familiar with the concepts and to go through. So learning is actually approaching the staff, and it means that what I said before about the training phase and about the conferences that are aimed for the medical staff, but for the patients as well. And the other part of the learning is teaching the patients, for them to understand what they are doing, to understand what healthy food means, what exercise does to you, how can we give you tools to help you deal with stress. Understanding that and practicing that at the same time. Not to do the data, like we said in the beginning, data doesn't work. Practicing that, experiencing that. This is learning for us.
Great. And as a reminder, if you have any questions, please feel free to put them into the Q&A section of the attendee control panel. Another question that came in is, how can others build a more comprehensive model of care using some of the learnings and challenges you discussed today?
So actually, if we spoke about impact, that is the 21st century revolution, I think that community force is the answer, is the big answer for that. Because when you want to create something new, you have to have community with you. And someone starting something like this alone, in the beginning he thinks he's alone with this perspective, but actually it's not true. There is a lot of evidence, there are a lot of specialists, there are a lot of medical staff that are into this vision. So you have to map them and you have to find them and to understand how you want to create your network so you can utilize them and work with them together. Of course, it's very important, so it won't be a big group. It needs to be maybe 5 or 7, not too much. You have to understand what you want to implement, what are your pilots, and according to that, you are creating your network. And then you start working with them, going through the road with these 5, 7 people, and only after to expand, not before.
Thank you. Because of the time, we will address any other questions via email that come through. But I wanted to note that we will, I know a lot of people had challenges with the video, so we can share the links to the videos that you shared that are available on YouTube with anyone who joined the call today. And now I'd like to turn it back over for Damien for final thoughts.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Efrat, for that great presentation. You know, you are truly a transformational leader in integrative health, and again, thank you for presenting today.
Thank you.
And thank you all for joining today's presentation. Please go to the leadership program website at www.integrativehealthleaders.org to access a recording of today's webinar, and check out some other resources we have available. We have white papers, information about the great work our alumni are doing, recent newsletter articles written by our faculty and some other leaders in the field. And please feel free to contact me with any questions you might have. And I look forward to meeting some of you in a future cohort. And thank you for your time. I think this concludes today's presentation.
Thank you very much. Namaste to everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.